welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James and I review fountain pens and paper and ink and all that kind of good stuff. And today I have a pen from Narwhal Pens. Now they provided this pen for review. That doesn't affect my opinions. I'm going to tell you what I like and what I don't like and all that good stuff regardless. But I'm really excited to share this pen with you, and that explains, by the way, why I am out here by the garden shed. I needed to get this pen out in the sun for you to really appreciate it. Narwhal has a new line of pens, and this is the Narwhal Voyage. Each of them is named for, and the colors themed around, a particular city. So there's Chicago and New York, and this is the New York City pen. Just check out the resin on that pen. Now I'm going to put it on the spin table as well to let you just really appreciate it. But just check that pen out. Okay, if that resin hasn't gotten your attention, then maybe some of the other features will. So let's flip that camera and dive right in. All right, so the pen comes in this rather large box with that Narwhal logo right in the center. Otherwise, this is a very, it reminds me kind of an Apple product in every other way in this box. And then it opens up to this very simple and nicely done box. Now, when you open the box, you find the pen. And if you purchase the pen, this is a review pen, then that will include a certificate of authenticity, the number of the pen, and a warranty card. So this is just simply the pen. But speaking of that pen, just look again at that lovely resin. Now this pen comes in 4 editions, each one honoring a city, as I mentioned before. This is New York City. There is also Chicago, Shanghai, and New Orleans. And then you have the pen itself, which is the New York City resin. It, like all the others, features genuine diamond dust within that resin. This is blue and orange and white. I really like the blue and the orange in here, and that is reflective of the New York City flag. The Chicago pen also reflects the city flag, and then you have Shanghai and Mardi Gras reflecting colors characteristic of those cities, and I really like all 4 of them. That Shanghai, probably you're thinking, if you look at that picture, it reflects James's love of blue, but there's enough blue in the New York City. And actually, it's the orange that catches my eye in this one the most. It has a steel clip, which is quite good and functional and sprung. I will say that on the one that I have, it's just a little bit crooked. I'm sure that is just this pen, but that can easily be fixed. It has a really nice trim band. There's not a lot of trim on this pen, but there is the gold-plated trim band, and let's take a look at that up close. You can see that it is also nautically themed and has the Narwhal name on it as well. Also, this ink window, excellent. I like the size, I like the clarity, I love a good ink window. Some pens, it's there, but it's not usable. This is a very usable ink window. And then moving back and down the pen, it is the same diameter all the way down. You have another gold trim ring, and then you have the piston knob, which when you turn the piston knob, you will see that for maintenance, it does have 2 flat sides there so that you can use a wrench to reach in there and unscrew that. Now, I don't have one that actually fits in there because of the diameter of the pen. I have a couple, but unfortunately, the way they're made, they don't get past the piston knob. So I have not taken the pen that far down, but that's okay, because when you take off the cap, that takes 1 and just shy of 2, then you can remove the nib. You just twist the nib unit gently, twist that nib unit out, and it comes out as a unit, and you will be able to easily clean the inside of this pen without having to remove the piston mechanism. And I'll throw a picture up of the here's a photo of the pen with that nib unit removed. You can just easily clean that out. Now let's look at that nib. The nibs are made in-house, and they are steel nibs. This is a number 6 sized nib, And it is a fine, as you can read there on the side of the nib. Typical plastic feed, as is common in most pens these days. And as I said, it is in a nib unit. Now, I've reviewed a medium before, and that nib was really quite smooth, and I really liked it. And I'll put a link to that review at the end of this video. Now let's do a quick size comparison. All right, there we have the New York version of the Narwhal Voyage, another pen from another great American city in the Northeast, Birmingham Pen Company, Model 6, and that is the Eye of Sauron. And then a Mahjong now, Moonman at the time I bought it. We have the M800 and that really beautiful Galaxy resin. Something a bit more everyday, a Platinum Profante, a great pen. And then while we're in the theme of diamonds, this one has diamond-shaped facets. We have the Benu in that Milky Way resin. And then here are the pens unposted. The Narwhal does not post, so I featured all of these pens without their caps posted, just to give you an idea of the writing length of the pen. All right, so let's see how the pen writes. Love that ink window. I didn't mention this, but the nib section is flanged with a nice diameter, which increases until you get to the threads, which are really nice and fine, not bothersome in the least. The step down is very minimal, and because of the material, nice and smooth, so not a problem at all. The pen is really nicely balanced. It's long enough that it's not an issue that the pen does not post, at least not for me. I find it to be a very comfortable pen to write with. Really nice feel and balance in hand. All right, so this is Rhodia paper lined today. I don't know what happened to my dot pad. Narwhal Voyage. And this is a fine and really nice writing fine. And the ink today is Birmingham Pen Company. This is cold steel ink. I've had this for quite a while, and I don't think I've ever done an ink test. I should do that as a follow-up to this review, shouldn't I? As I mentioned earlier, nib is nice and smooth. Wetness, that's good flow. I like that. That also gives you a better look at the color of the ink, doesn't it? I really like that. Again, the resin is New York. Just in case, there's no way you could have forgotten by now, but hey, it's possible. And of course, that is New York City. Okay, many times we get the two confused, the city and the state, and the people who live in the state but not the city don't want you to confuse the two, right? The people who live in the city, they don't get confused. They just assume it's all them. You can tell I lived in the state for a little while saying that. My apologies to those in Manhattan. I do love your Cat's Deli. That's all right. Anybody who has that good a pastrami is okay with me. Let's see, where were we? We were rambling. Let me do a speed test. I haven't done one of these in a while, I don't feel like. Let's try this and see if it keeps up. Okay, now I know this lift was me, and I don't... What about you? I'm not seeing any other. But this writes well, feels really good in hand, like the pen. Let's do some pros and cons. Pro. First, I have to talk about the nib first. This really is a great writing nib. It is smooth. It is not feedbacky. There is no catch whatsoever. It is really writing very nicely. Let me just kind of note a couple of things about it. First is that smoothness. Flow is quite good. Really kept up. And it's a number 6. it's my understanding that if you really just felt like it, you can swap that out with a Yovo or a Bach, but I have no motivation whatsoever to do that at all. It is, by the way, and I would say this is a pro, it's available in fine, medium, broad, and stub. You have to love those choices of resins and the feel. It really is just, for my hand, and of course this is, your mileage may vary, personal thing. For my feel, this pen that's just right. It reminds me, even though it's smaller, the reason I have the Ranga pen out, I mean, this is like mini, my word, the size. This, you would think this is a big pen until I put this here, right? Even though there's not much in common other than beautiful resin, great nib, and all the high points. Beautiful resin, great nib, great feel. It kind of reminds me of that. This probably a little bit. The materials, the level of polish and finesse on smoothing out and polishing the resin just has that same good feel. The grip section feels just as comfortable one to the other to me. And high points, there's some similarity there. It really is just a striking pen. Cons. My clip was a little bit crooked, and I think that's not normal. I would not let that get in your way, and if it did, I would just talk to the retailer about it. But I think that's probably quite unusual, but it happens on a pen now and then. I have several that have come that way. Some people are going to say that not posting is a con. Now, personally, this is not an issue to me. That does not bother me in the least. I don't want to scratch up that resin anyway. So to me, that's neither here nor there. The pen is great unposted. But, apostrophe, there will be people who care about that sort of thing. And the only other con that I can really think of, there's not one from my hometown. I would love to have had one from my hometown, but then that's what custom pen makers are for, right? Anyway, that is the Narwhal Voyage in the New York resin, a really striking pen in all of its colors. This one, being somebody who lived in New York State and loved to go down to the city, I gotta say, this one I really, really enjoyed just for that connection and for the colors of their flag and all that good stuff. But really great pen, really enjoyed it. And I would absolutely encourage you, if this is the kind of pen that strikes you and it's within your budget, check it out. I do think it deserves your consideration, and really enjoyed reviewing this pen. God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the comments and in the next video.